the hidden and the silent killer of technology startup. What is technical debt?
This is the worst, the killer. We are people of instant gratification. As you see, there's a lot in the technical team.
Yeah.
So you should be very careful while choosing that team.
How important is that using version control?
And that's the magic.
I know you are the big preacher of business domain. How important is it?
You wonder what pressure will make you do. So the other thing that you should know, at least a kidogo.
Yeah.
Kidogo. Just know the tech that is actually executing. Kidogo.
Welcome again to the Be Agile show, where we talk about digital product development, innovation, and technology in Africa. This is brought to you by iPF Academy. This is another series, and this time we are talking about an interesting topic, the hidden and the silent killer of technology startup, commonly known as a technical debt. So I'm joined today with my colleague, partner, and Jackson go way back 10 years. We've been knowing one another, doing business together, working together as engineers. And just in brief, Jackson Twalipo, he's a founding partner of iPF Softwares, one that is very much behind the cameras and behind the scene. Today we had to push some buttons to get him on the cameras. He's a technical lead at iPF Softwares. He's a passionate Java developer. He, like Jackson, can code literally anything you throw at him. He worked in reputable projects, integration with MNOs across multiple countries, to mention few, MTN Uganda, MTN Rwanda. He worked on integration with some MNOs in South Africa and almost every MNO in the country. He led the team at iPF to build our own in-house payment gateway. He participated in building the architecture of a middleware to help to facilitate integration between banks and BOT, the real-time supervisory information system. He's very passionate about coding and engineering in general. Jackson, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you. I'm happy being here.
Awesome. So you mind telling in a brief, how does your day job look like as a technical lead at iPF Softwares?
So technically what I do is manage deliverables. And on a typical day, you say I'll help product owners and engineers avoid technical debt.
Avoiding technical debt.
Sure.
Nice.
Sure.
A topic at hand.
Yeah,
So your main job is to make sure people, like the team here, get to avoid the technical debt.
Yeah.
Awesome. So in summary, I did an introduction. This is a very important topic, and very few people get the concept of it. But the moment you get to hear about it, it just hits you like, oh, okay, do I have any technical debt? Jackson, in simple terms, what is technical debt? For that, an entrepreneur and innovator out there who they're hearing about this for the first time. And since it is your day job, I would love to hear it from you.
Nice. As you say, if you hear it for the first time, it becomes apparent. You might be wondering, why have I not come across this terminology or this concept before? But again, on a base definition, you could say technical debt is the additional cost that could be caused by you choosing a simpler solution rather than going with an efficient solution. This could be based on many other reasons why.
Okay, awesome. So are all technical debts bad?
No, I wouldn't say so, because we have intentional technical debts and unintentional technical debts. Each one based on how it happens. It could be bad or it could be good. So it's just how you work around it to make it good or bad. So if you go about intentional technical debts, these are the debts that you actually know right now that we're getting into one, and just because you're looking to ship your product out there first, you have deadlines to meet, and you may find yourself with the team trying to choose one methodology over the other that you know you'll come back and pay this debt. So that's one. The other that is unintentional technical debt. I mean, this is the worst, the killer, because now you don't know if you're getting into one. Yeah. So just picture you getting into a debt that you actually don't know what you're getting into one. So I mean, those two kind of debts that separate these two.
Okay, awesome. So I say I am an innovator and entrepreneur out there, and I believe a technical debt does not really matter if you're a tech savvy or not a tech savvy. It will one day to catch up with you if you don't take a special attention with it. You mentioned there are two types, intentional and non-intentional technical debt. I'm an entrepreneur, and maybe I've received some good idea, or I've got some funds to be able to push this product quickly to market. And one of the causes I understand that are causing technical debt to come is business pressure from stakeholders, from people around, and everything. Now, what are other common causes beside the business pressure? Because the business pressure will come in and push the development team, push the founder to get to the development team. We need this quickly. We need to launch in a month. And that could be a pitfall to jumping into a technical debt. As much as we're saying we need to be agile and launch quickly and everything, if you can highlight for us, what are the quick common causes of technical debt?
Sure. I mean, as you said, one being the pressure to launch, as you've just said. So that's the common one, because again, in our region, so to say, we are people of instant gratification. We really want to have something and push it the next day that we see it in the market. So we really want that instant feedback on what we have done. So that's the killer, because again, this straight up comes from the business team, or comes from the owner of the product himself also. So they control it because they are the one who's funding it so that the product will move. So that's the killer. Other reason could be now, because most of us, you may be lacking in funds, so you may try to pick up a non-expert team to execute the product. So this could be some of the major causes of. Some of the other causes of technical debt could be most of them now drive down to the technicality of now executing the project. I mean, this drives to now the engineering team. So there's a lot of ways that could cause a technical debt. One that is most common is not documenting what you're actually doing, the project itself. Again, not knowing the problem domain of the project that you're working with. That could actually cause a lot of technical debts. And that is the intention of the killer one. So that's something to watch. So the team, you could say, not using a version control. This is a tool that allows you to have a history of what you've done throughout the project execution, so that you can come back quickly and say, this is what we've done. The other thing that you say, as you see, there's a lot in the technical team. So you should be very careful while choosing that team, because this is where most of the technical debts lie in. I could say not using, continuous integrations. This is a continuous way of shipping products and automated way of shipping products. You could also say it could be as easy as not testing your product. Just that could really lead into a technical debt.
Jackson, you have dropped some bombshells here on like causes of technical debt, and I just want to pick few so that we can dive into. All right. So we are much believers of agile software methodology over other options like waterfall and the likes of that. And with agile, the major difference between agile and waterfall, it is relying heavily on documentation, given like agile does not rely much on documentation. And you just said one of the causes that will cause the technical debt is not documenting your project properly. And we are on the Be Agile show. Actually, I feel like it's kind of conflicting with the methodology that you are using yourself in developing solutions. Now, how do you strike a balance there? Or like, how do you say you are documenting this and that, and like, what kind of documentation are we talking about here? Nice.
Thank you. Funny that the concept itself, technical debt, was incepted by one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto. And again, this is what he highlighted, and some of the causes of the Agile and of the technical debt. So that really means he also had a concerns in this, and these are some of the actual concerns that actually caused the technical debt. So to strike a balance, as you said, agility goes a long way. I mean, it's building incremental. Even you could document incrementally. If you have a specific problem domain, you research on the specific part that you're actually working on right now and document about it. And now this will break down your documenting process, rather than now thinking about the whole thing. You now couple this to a section or a part that you're actually working on right now, and then come back next time and do the next one and next one. You can even reiterate and come back and refactor what you have documented, and that will be pure.
Okay, so still on documentation, I think there are two types of documentation we're talking about here. There's documentation of business logic and how you want your solution to work, and there's a documentation of code documentation, because later on you came and mentioned about using version control and how important is that, using version control, because I believe it is one of the ways of doing documentation. And maybe if you can give a light to non-technical entrepreneurs and innovators out there, like what is a version control and why is it important in your project, and maybe where they can get access to that.
Yeah, nice. So, I mean, it's funny because when we started engineering on the core, when we started doing this, we used to do version control, and in a very funny way, you know. We used to have these folders. So version control, you want to know at a certain point in time, what did you do? Then you get to another point of time, you've changed stuff. But again, how will you know that you've changed something? And so if you have version control, you easily manage these changes over time, and you can always come back to a specific point in time. Maybe, let's say, in this example, today, you say you deployed something. Deploying means that you put something live there for everybody to see. And when you're deploying it, the project was at this state. And a few days down the road, you decided to change something, and that something actually broke the system. You will say, let me go back to a previous version that now if you use version control, you can easily go back to that previous version that was actually working and deploy that again, because you have the history of what you're doing. I was talking about how funny it was, how we did that. We used to keep these send folders in our computer. If you come, you'll see, let's say you have our project is Mrembo. We're trying to put foreground women. Now we have documents in our computer that says Mrembo 1, Mrembo 2, Mrembo 3, Mrembo 4, Mrembo 3.5, Mrembo final. Just because you want to try to keep this version so that if anything goes wrong, or you know what was happening in the previous version.
So that is the old way of doing things.
Yes, that is the super old way. So the new way, we have these different version controls tools. We have the most famous GitHub and Git. Git is the version control itself. GitHub is the layer that encapsulates the Git itself. And this is quite free. It's a free tool. Just enter GitHub.
Keyword free.
Yes. Enter github.com, and then you could throw in your version and maybe make some additional payment if your team is growing. But again, starting a project itself, should be easy and simple, and something that you really don't want to miss.
So if you are an entrepreneur and innovator out there, you need to go and check this out. github.com. It is free, and make sure all your source code is stored there. What Jackson did not mention is that is where the truth of and the state of your project lies on in terms of engineering as much as concerned, but as well enables team collaboration, enables people to be able to collaborate and work together. Like if you have multiple engineers in different locations, they can be able to work together, because it's just telling who did what at what time. And
that's the magic. And that's the magic of it. Again, because now having a single folder, you cannot know who did what. If you use the version control, it will tell you who did what at what point of time, and you could be easy to trace back and say what was happening here.
Okay, awesome. You mentioned something interesting along the way in one of the courses, and honestly, I did not see this one coming. And I know you are the big preacher of business domain. How important is it? Because the business team and the business owner, the product owner, obviously, they will know the business domain. If they want to innovate or disrupt a VCOBA space, a VSLA space, they will know about the business domain. If they're building a fintech solution, they will know about that solution deep down. I believe when you say not knowing or mastering the business domain, you are referring to the engineering team, the development team. How important is that?
Yeah. So it's funny that we're saying definitely the main focus of this is the engineering team. But again, it's funny knowing that a lot of product owners don't quite know their business domain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the pure fact.
Okay.
That's the pure fact. That's why.
So we have a bigger problem.
Exactly. That's why one of the services at IPF is us trying to ideate your business so that you actually grasp the whole concept of your business domain. So that is a very important part, and we don't go to the next stage until we actually make sure we really understand.
You have understood. You're saying actually about the mastering the business domain and how that is important to the product owners.
Yeah, and exactly. So at some point, we really have to teach something before we get started. Yeah, so make the product owner aware. And
the innovator, you mean?
Exactly, this is the innovator. Thank you for the right word. So now you have to make sure that innovator understands the product domain. So most of them come with the partially cooked idea, and then you have to ideate that to now a fully cooked idea that even the product owner knows what is going on, what it's supposed to expect of the product, and maybe this can be the process that we are going to go through until we have a full product. So IPF, we have a role that we call a BA, business analyst, that will stay with the product owner and go about this. So now comes the important part, is to transfer this information, this knowledge to the engineer.
Okay.
So if the engineers actually marry problem domain, marry the concept, if you make them like it, and if they absorb it all, then it will be easy for them to now come up with the engineering strategy that will actually help.
But how does that result to a depth eventually? I know it might sound obvious, but I really need to pinpoint that. Would it affect the database, like the database structure or anything? How would that affect?
So it will affect the general build-up of the platform. If you're working on a platform and you actually don't know what it really covers, that means you'll build today something that will be obsolete in the next 5 days or in the next week because you didn't get the full nitty-gritty of the problem domain. So now that becomes a problem because now you have to come back and rework so that you can conform to the new needs. So if you give your engineers partial understanding of the product domain, they'll give you a partial understanding of the product.
And it will cause that rework you mentioned about. So the rework will come in later because they worked on something that is like partially cooked the information.
Exactly. Let's say if you're ordering something and if you give me a partial part of the order, I'll give you a typical ugali na dagaa. But if you say ugali na dagaa, the dagaa awe wa Kigoma, awe ana chumvi kiasi fulani na nini, then chungu na bamia, then I'll give you that. You know what I mean?
This is very interesting. I recall in one of the projects we worked on during like the Pesatech Accelerator program, and we had this session where we spoke with the engineers separately, and then we spoke to the founders later. And it was like a blame game, a blame game between them. I think I see what you're saying there is the developers will be blamed like they are not delivering or they're not delivering the right solution. Come to a result that the founder themselves, the innovator themselves, they did not understand the business domain very well. They gave partial requirement to the developers and expecting the developers to be able to figure out everything. And once they deliver something like, no, this is not it. So it's very important for the product owner to be able to understand the business domain so that they can be able to share and transfer that knowledge to the developers. And I think most people just see developers as just developers, give them requirements, but they don't get to involve them in the decision making, in their thinking.
It's a bridge that you have to make it smaller and smaller eventually, and make it disappear. You shouldn't have that bridge there.
Okay, awesome. And thank you for that highlight. And you mentioned about not testing products. So there is a number of ways of testing the product. But how could someone ship the product without even testing even a little? So I believe people test the product.
You wonder what pressure will make you do. You wonder what pressure will make you do. So pressure will make you do a lot. And testing a product comes in many ways. You see, building a product, and when you come to the agile world, that means you're building incrementally, you're building personal features upon features. By the time you get to feature number 10, you already have 9 features back. So if you don't go back and start making sure each part actually functions as it was supposed to, and you only focus on the last part, now you come to release the product, you find the user can't get into the system. He was working with how to process money within the system. Now the user can't even get into the system now because this is a feature that you created way back and you really want to concentrate on that right now.
Regression testing.
Exactly.
I want to get back to this a little bit, and you mind clarifying what does this really mean? How will that affect or cause technical debt? Can you just expand on it?
Sure. So as I was saying before, when you work incrementally, even anyhow you work, you always have a number of features or a number of things that you have delivered over the time. So if after you've done working on something right now, it may it might have or it might not have affected the something that you worked previously. That means if you want to have that, you say a complete test, you really have to go back and test from the initial part of the learning. So sometimes if you want to do a very good testing, you could automate all this so that when I'm doing my feature number 10, I've already automated tests from feature number 1, 2, 3, 4 until 9. That means I'll just run the automated testing and it will definitely go back and test my previous features, and that means by the time I'm good with all the rest, also you have this a golden path there on what you've done. So it's something that we miss because we always hasty trying to ship what we have right now, forgetting what we already have.
So you're testing what you have now, right? What the team is working right now, and forgetting about
what you already
the entire journey.
The entire journey.
So making sure the feature that you release now does not affect other features that you have worked on. Mostly that is forgotten. People just test what they have now, and eventually that could cause a returning back to something that has not worked out.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Jackson, you mentioned some very good insights here. I'm going to paraphrase this later along the way, but I just need to pick something from you. With your 10 years of experience building enterprise solutions for banks, for international NGOs, for corporate, for startups and innovators, have you yourself and the team at IPF come across a technical debt?
Nice. You say 10 years is a lot not to have a technical debt. It's a lot. As I said, we have two types of technical debts, the intentional and non-intentional. I mean, a lot of time we come across intentional technical debt because, again, we as a team have decided, let's go this way and we'll pay this debt.
Intentionally, you get into that debt.
Exactly. And we have tried our best to avoid unintentional, but again, they come along. Every now and then. So, yeah.
I would like to hear some example. Actually, let's start with non-intentional. Those are the most interesting ones. Give one example that you came across unintentional technical debt.
Sure. So we had a product with one of our clients. We were supposed to build a product with the client, and again, this comes with the not knowing completely problem domain of the product that you want to create, and there was pressure around the product.
The delivery.
Yeah, exactly. We should deliver this. So it made us break our process of actually going through the product. So without knowing, we chose an architecture to go about the product and said, this is an architecture that we're going to use. Let's say, to be specific, we said, we're going to use a non-relational database. It will be done quickly.
Unstructured database,
exactly,
non-relational.
Exactly. And this will be done quickly. So that was an option right now. And we said it will be a good option based on the problem that we're working on. Now, coming to deploy, the organization was like, no, we don't really use an unstructured. Our database has to be structured. Always. It was a studied area, and because we didn't do that our proper way of executing the project, as it is within the definition of having a technical debt, it made us now come back and rework, almost redo every other data resource that you was requesting, because you have to request data resource. Every data resource, you had to do it again to conform to the new database. And that was
a tedious job.
Exactly.
How long did it take?
So again,
because that is the cost you're paying. How long did it take?
Exactly. And some people like measuring technical debt by the
time.
It took us a month, so to say, just going back and redoing that. And sometimes
a month worth of time to redo the database structure again to structured database.
Exactly, and come back just to put it right now this time around. And sometimes it's crazy rebuilding rather than building a new thing. So yeah, that's not it. That means you have to break it, then to build it again.
So that is unintentional. That is a really bad one.
Yeah, that was a bad one. It caused frustration all over every section of the implementation cycle, from the team, from the client actually. So everybody was frustrated with this.
So like that is a project getting backward by 1 month.
Exactly.
If you're at the launch date, you have to wait for a month.
You have to wait for a month now, a full month.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to go into like you could not find a way around to convince them
What do you convince people who say this is our way of doing?
Yeah.
This has always been a way of doing it, and it has a lot of reason why they're doing that. Maybe in terms of security and everything. Now you just can't break their ways. And again, and this was a problem caused by us breaking our ways.
Yeah.
You see?
Because because you are chasing a deadline.
Exactly. So you cannot force anybody after knowing this is the debt that we're getting. That means you cannot force your client to actually also break their ways, because you know they also have a technical debt themselves. So you don't want to take them to the same route that you are.
Yeah. Awesome. So maybe going back to the other example, the intentional one. Are you actually working on one right now?
Yeah.
Or how often you get into that? Maybe you start with an example.
Yeah.
Any examples on intentional technical debt that you're incurring now?
Yeah. So and again, the good part of it is you're deciding this and you're tracking it. And if you track it well, it becomes less of a debt. It's just a decision that you made, and you're trying to come back to that decision right now and say, let us go back. Yeah, let us go back and clear our decision, or go back to a promise that we actually made. This is a promise actually. You're making yourself that it will come back to you, and so the one that actually happened, and this is recent, because we make this decision, and a very good software company, I think it should be able to make this intentional technical decision to incur them. Sometimes they are necessary? Exactly, they're necessary. Over and over, you should be able to accept them and make them and mitigate them easily. So recently we had a product that we are sure with how the product is supposed to be, we really need a mobile solution. A mobile application. Exactly, a mobile application. I'm an enthusiast of mobile solution right away, just for the record. So knowing that, and the needs actually dictated that we should do something faster, quicker. And so we resorted to having some sort of a prototype. Exactly, so that we test it in the market, and now this is due to a very good ideation process. We saw maybe we should do this something fast and test the prototype, and if it pans out well, you can go to the next stage, and that is building a solid concrete mobile application. So we decided let's build a web platform that will actually be adapted to mobile app, knowing that it will not fully cover what we really want, but again we are accepting that debt and to come and do a rework to bring out a mobile app in the near future. So to say, technical debt actually beg for financial debts is just a close comparison. Yeah.
Nice. Jackson, as an engineer, and we have spoken about with you've shared what should founders and innovators do, but I want you to give your platform, because I know this is burning and itching in you, like you wanna talk to fellow engineers and developers out there, whether junior or senior. Like what should they do to be able to help the innovators to avoid technical debt? Nice. Please expound on that.
Okay, nice. It's inevitable that learning is the best thing one can do. So when you learn, you acquire new knowledge, then you have to use this knowledge. So this calls for refactoring. If you've acquired knowledge, you'll always come back to the code that you actually wrote, you refactor that, make it better, improve it. Yeah, exactly. You make it even better from the vendor. So, and this is a call to the product owners, that if your engineer says he or she is refactoring a piece of code, that means they're trying to avoid technical debt. They're trying to mitigate the effect of the technical debt. So that means it comes with learning and acquiring new knowledge every now and then. That's one. So the other one could be, using version control. That means you always have to know where you came from. So, because working without a version control, it's almost like you walking blindfolded.
They say you are working without having on a document without an undo button.
Exactly. Yeah. That's even more perfect when put in that way. Yes, you're actually working without an undo button. Yes, you can always come back to a previous version that really works and start up from that. So that's gold right there. So the other one could be, if you're an engineer, you have to make sure you adhere to the best practices. You always have to try to know what's the best practice when you're dealing with something. So if you're having a problem domain, and this is what I always say to a lot of engineers, master the best practices. And this is a very good example. If you try to get into building an audio platform and you don't adhere to the best practices of audio processing, you come up with the worst audio. To give you an example, what happens if I was listening to something from my earbuds or maybe a connected earphones, and what if I unplug that? What should you do? So if you don't adhere to the best practices, you with the software or your application that you created, you unplug that, and the sound goes off to everyone. That is now
bad experience.
It's a super bad experience, and this is just because you do not try to know what's the best practice for them. So it's very important for an engineer to know the best practices of the problem domain that they're working on. Yeah, so that is one big thing to know right there. And I could say the other one could be testing. Always. As an engineer, you just have to automate these tests. Also automate so that they become easy for you and become easy to do the regression testing. If you remember that terminology again, it comes again. It always pops up every now and then. You have to actually see how you mitigate that by doing creating, automating these tests. So that will be very helpful to you. The other one I would say, yes, you have to use this tool for continuous integration and deployment. They will save you a lot, and make sure you actually avoid some technical debt that are related to that too. And then finally, as an engineer, you should be professional. So this comes in a lot of ways. How can you be professional? So as an engineer, either a product owner or a business person, will always expect advices from you. If you go to a doctor right now, you're putting all your cards to the doctor, and like whatever the doctor says is what I'm going to follow, or because I'm expecting the technical expertise from the doctor. That the same way is what a client or a business person is actually expecting from you. As a professional, you should be able to extract information that will make your work easy, so that you can understand the problem domain. So you should be there at that point, or equip yourself with the right tools, with the right knowledge for you to be able to capture that from the client. Also, what do I say? What do I ask, so that I can get the information that I really want, so that I can execute a better product. So that's very important too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice. Jackson, thank you so much. You have dropped so much good information here, and I want to unpack all this and summarize. I've been trying to take notes, and I've captured some good points here, and this is just a key highlight to summarize our conversation. Key ways to avoid technical debt: not having an expert like in the team, like not working with a proper engineering team. That could cause one to fall into technical debt. Documentation of the project. Now, Jackson says it's important as well to document from a business idea on how you're doing. If you change a business logic or something, you should be able to document it. Why did you change from one business logic to another? Another key point here, knowing business domain. Now, this goes both ways, to the engineers and to the business innovators as well, the entrepreneurs and the creators. You need to be able to know your business domain, master it, because that way you'll be able to know the ins and the out of that business. So that is very important. As well as innovators or owner of a business, you need to be able to encourage your team to use version control. And Jackson highlights you can get access to this for free, and this is the source code, where the source code of your project will go into. Beside being hosted on the server and everywhere, this is where your source code can be stored, and you can access it through github.com. So visit github.com, register using your business account, and then you can invite in your developers there. And almost every developer, like a proper developer, would have an account or username on GitHub. Register that and invite them, and make sure they be able to push changes there every time. So even if you're working with a developer and you don't work with them, you can be able to remove them from that account and invite another one. So it just keeps up your information in one place. Another one to the engineers and developers, this is not using automation in testing and deployment. It is very important. It's a little bit a high end, I'll put it. like someone has covered all the basic, then you really consider doing continuous integration and deployment, and as well testing your product. It is very important to test your product, and number of ways of this you can do. If you have a mobile application, you could use Google Play Store testing platform, beta testing, and for iOS it is there as well. But as well, if you're having a web platform, you make sure you have an environment where you'll be able to test before going to live. That is important. And he also insisted on what you should do as a product owner now. You are building a solution for 1 year, 2 years, 3 months. What should you do now to be able to know, to be able to avoid technical debt? So the first thing he said, and probably this is the only thing he said, you should know your debt. Knowing your debt and prioritizing and keeping a log of your technical debt, it will help you eventually be able to avoid your technical debt and be able at least to know what debt are you paying. And he gave a metaphor which is a really good, like some debts are from a loan shark and the accrual for interest is very high compared to some friendly loans that you've taken or intentionally taken these loans and being able to know about that. So identify your debts and identify which one are intentional, which one are non-intentional. He finalized by sharing a message and advice to fellow engineers and developers is, I got this in a very good cycle, like learn, refactor, build, learn, refactor, build. So you go into that cycle every time you make sure you learn something, go back and refactor your code. And to the business owner, give time to your developers to go back and refactor their code, because that is their way of helping you to avoid this technical debt eventually. We've spoken about version control, then you said being professional. The developers to be professional and always to seek for best practice of doing something. You want to add up something?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, maybe before we close up, we spoke about being professional for the engineers. I mean, there's a way you can twist it to go to the business people or business person. Knowing your business domain, that's a major thing to you. Also, you have to know it also anyway, and you have to know it better than anybody else. If you're moving that to the next, how do you move it in the next step? Because you have to know it better than anybody else. So the other thing that you should know, at least a kidogo. Kidogo. Just know the tech that is actually executing kidogo. Just know if they're using a Laravel to execute nanini. What really is it? Just a gist of it.
Just Google a little bit.
Gist of it. Just maybe the very first section and that explanation that comes when you Google something. Maybe that's super enough for you, and this helps a lot because in also understanding what is happening
engineering
inside. Yes, because more is bridging a gap between you and engineering. In the terms, if you see an engineer is struggling to do something or struggling to explain something, an easy way to you to capture what they're explaining in your business side would be, will this cause a technical debt? Yes. If yes,
I like that.
Yes. How you see and you
can you repeat that again?
Yes. Yeah. So I mean the other easiest way for you to get to know your project. I mean sometimes when you come back and every now and then you have to talk to the engineers and know what they're doing, so that to get a glimpse of what they're actually working on, because it's your own product right now. And sometimes they fail explaining to what they're working on or why they're doing something else. To you, an easy way to go could be, would this cause a technical debt?
So asking that question to a developer, like if they're struggling with something, would this cause a technical debt?
Yes.
And what if the answer is yes?
If yes, then what's the magnitude of it?
What's the magnitude of the debt?
Exactly.
So like it could cause a technical debt, but what's the magnitude of it?
Yeah. Is it
How bad is it?
How bad is it? Is it something that we can hide it right now and maybe work on it 1 year down the road? Or is it something that it will surface and bite us the next week or the next month or when you launch? So just knowing that, so to say, you're now an engineer, so to say, but again, you've just got the very
and then
little
keeping
from
a log of it, and then you change your debt from being unintentional to being intentional debt.
Exactly.
Just by asking. Awesome. And making it that decision that you're taking it or not.
And it becomes manageable.
it becomes manageable.
Yeah.
Awesome. We might not finish this conversation today. You have a question? Awesome. Karibu. So like these people behind the camera, our producer, they have a question.
So, suppose I have a product already.
Yeah.
You say this is important to know my technical debt.
Yeah.
Where should I start? I have a product already.
Yeah.
Maybe this is something new. Maybe do not understand about technical debt and stuff. So, where should I start to know my technical debt in my product, the product I have already?
Nice.
Maybe I echo that so that it's being captured well on the mic as well. Bryson here, he's our co-producer with Deborah here, and he asked a question. What does he do now? He has a product already. How old is your product, Bryson?
Let's say 3 years.
3 years. Okay, so Bryson has a product they worked on for 3 years, and what does he do now that they've learned about technical debt?
You may find that you have 1 year technical debt.
Your product is 3 years old.
It has a year technical.
You have 1 year for technical debt.
Exactly.
That is a lot of
you
money.
may find yourself in that predicament, but again, so to say. So maybe at IPF we have services that we do a product audit. So that's a very first point that you get into. You do a product audit that will actually tell you what's the status of the product, and if you have any technical debts, it will categorize them in, they have said, these are the ones that you can hide, these are the ones that you should work on them promptly. So by that, you have a full picture of what you're working on. And then, now you have the understanding of the product debt, and now you know your product debt, and you maintain that list, and you start executing one by one until you have all the critical technical debt handled, and you start handling these other ones as they come. And there's a lot of tools, other tools that they can help you evaluate the technical debt. And if you have that, you make it even easier for the evaluation to be done, the product evaluation. But if you don't have that, it's even harder. But again, it still can be done. It only takes more time. That's why I said now you may find yourself you have a year of technical debt. Even the reviewing to take it to know what's the technical debt, that is also a debt that you're also incurring right now.
Okay, awesome. Bryson, you happy? Awesome. Now, thank you. We might take an hour or so. I don't know what's the time here, but I know we are over time. And conversations with Jackson could go way, way long. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking to the end. And I believe you found this valuable. And if that is the case, you learned one or two things, please do a gesture and sharing this to someone who will be able to learn about this. Share it on your network, share it on LinkedIn, share it on any platform, on any social media, Twitter, anywhere. Tag IPF Academy and use the hashtag Be Agile so that we can be able to get together that feedback as well. And if a challenge to you as an entrepreneur, while you're watching this, I believe you've thought about your technical debt. Please comment below on what are the major technical debt based on your experience that you've come across, and what are the next steps that you'll be able to take to be able to avoid this technical debt, or what are you going to do so that we can all learn together. This platform, it is for all of us to learn and fellow entrepreneurs to be able to learn so that we can be able to build better product for the world and for Africa in specific. This is Be Agile, and the show is powered by IPF Academy. And you know what to do. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe if you've not subscribed to this channel so that we can be able to produce more contents like this for you. And if you like this conversation with Jackson we have today, and you have any specific question to Jackson or to anything in between technical debt, please comment below as well, add your comment, and we'll find a way to get back to you and respond to that. Thank you for watching. Until next time, be agile.
Be agile.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, man. Cheers. This is cool.